Hi, everyone.
Everyone.
Hey.
Hey, the Afro-Vegan Society is back for the end of the month of March to close everything out. It's Women's History Month. It's coming to an end. We are a team of women at Afro-Vegan Society, so we are always celebrating and highlighting and supporting the work of women in what we do. But we wanted to come on and hang out with you all. If you tuned into any of our virtual happy hours during February last month in February, you heard us say that we're going to be coming back every month to spend time with you all again. So we have lives planned out for every month for the rest of the year. And this is our first live since February. So it's nice to be back in you all's kitchen together. And it's so nice to have people tuning in. If you are watching, please in the comments shout it out and let us know where are you watching from. I'm in DC. Where are you, Jasmine?
I'm in Baltimore.
And Jamila, where you at?
I'm in Baltimore County, so different
Nice.
place. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're all on the East Coast. We're not far from one another, but we've seen people from all over the country and even all over the world tuning in with us for these live virtual happy hours. We've got folks from Philly tuning in. Hi, Helene. So, yeah, we're excited. Continue to shout out where you're from, where you're watching from. We know it's Thursday. Some people like to get it started with the happy hours on Thursday, but maybe this will give you a little bit of inspiration for something you might want to cook up this weekend and enjoy. We're keeping it simple, but very creative, I think, with dips. So I'm going to be making something that I'm kind of making up on the spot, but it's a caramelized onion and carrot dip, kind of inspired by hummus, but with some different ingredients in it. So I want to show you how to put that together. Jasmine, what are you making today?
I'm making a buffalo chicken dip.
Yum.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you making, Jamila?
And I'm going to be making a cheesy mac and cheese type dip.
Awesome. So that's ooh, mac and cheese. Wait, I'm processing like, wow, that sounds really good.
I mean, it's technically from my mac and cheese recipe, but it's great as a dip as well.
Amazing. So, wow, people are really streaming in. We've got people here from Florida in the house, New
Hey.
Orleans, hello, Alexandria, Virginia, Callie's in Ohio. Hi, everyone. We are so happy you're tuning in. And will you post your recipes after? Yes, we will post them after. We'll send y'all an email with the recipes after this is done. So you probably get them tomorrow or Saturday. Because we do want you to be able to enjoy these dips as well. Because some of us are making these things up on the fly, but that's what it's all about in the vegan kitchen, being willing to experiment and see where things go,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we wanted to take some time to recognize women who inspire us. We're definitely going to talk about vegan women who inspire us once we get, cooking with our recipes. But I just thought it would be a nice idea to talk about some like women just in general who inspire us. So I thought about this when I knew we were doing this live, and the two women who just came to my mind immediately that inspired me, aside from my mother and all the amazing women in my life, are Toni Morrison. I love Toni Morrison so much. And she has an amazing documentary called The Pieces of Me that you can watch online. But I just love Toni. I've always loved her. And then another woman who really inspires me is Ida B. Wells. She was a journalist, and she was tough. She was an investigative journalist uncovering the problem of lynching in America, and she would go places that no one else would go. And she really started documenting the truth about what happens here in the country, and it shifted a lot of things. It's interesting because I think the bill just passed this week, an anti-lynching bill finally. In
Wow.
2022, an anti-lynching bill finally passed, and they've been trying to get one passed since like the 1930s. So, our work takes progress. There are so many aspects of life that we have to progress forward in, but persistence is key. So, yeah, those are two women that I very much admire. Anybody else want to share any women that they admire?
Jasmine, you got one? Oh, two?
So for me, I was thinking about some people who inspire me and like thinking about veganism and my journey on veganism. And I look into like the community. I think about like Chef Babette. Like she's an older woman and she's doing a thing. Like her body is amazing. Like she just have a mindset. Um, she gets rid of that old mindset. Like, oh, I'm old. Like I can't do this. And she's like breaking barriers. She's showing people even at the age of 70, you can still work out, you can still body build, and you can still have health as your first priority. Second is Alvina Fulton. She was one of the ones that inspired Dick Gregory to go vegan. And when we think about a lot of like Black women, they find veganism on like this health journey. So like with Alvina, like she tapped into like naturopathy, fasting, plant-based foods, and we know that plants and can be used as medicine, and then fasting is also a way to allow our bodies to rest and heal themselves. So that's some of the things that Alvina really delves into, and she shares that with, she shared it with people. So.
That's
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Honestly, Jasmine, you just took the words out of my mouth with Chef Babette, because she was definitely on the list of that, because I'm really into health and wellness, and like fitness, that's a word that people are trying to like rebrand nowadays, in our field. But like she really takes fitness to a whole nother level, and there's nothing but respect for her in that, because just like what you said, age ain't nothing but a number. You know what I mean? And that is goals right there. I'm trying to be looking like that when I'm 70 facts. You know what I mean?
I look like that right now.
Yes, exactly. Now is the time. Now is the time. And also, I have to say, Bell Hooks. She just recently transitioned about a month or two ago. I think even longer than that. She's always been inspirational to work like in my, I guess we would say, like social justice type journey for the past 7 years. And she's just somebody who just did not give a hoot. You know what I mean? She went out there, said what she had to say, let people know in her own authentic way. And I'll always be inspired by that. Like Black women going out there, taking charge in a very authentic way that speaks from the heart and the soul. So yeah, those two women are just like, I have an exhaustive list, you know what I mean? But they're definitely always the ones I think of first.
Yes, I think those are all amazing women. And, there's so many women watching tonight commenting. So we appreciate you. We appreciate our community that we are building together. And take some time in the comments if you want. If there are any women that you can think of that inspire you, share them as you share where you're from as well. And I think with that said, we can jump right into the recipes. So Jamila, your setup is looking good. So do you want to kick us off with the recipes today?
Absolutely. So yes, y'all, as I said before, I'm going to be making my mac and cheese recipe, or mac and cheese sauce recipe. That's great to dip for like chicken, like vegan chicken, carrots, any type of thing that's very dippable. And I used to have a whole recipe about this, but I'm just going to let the ancestors guide me today. So let's see what happens. I know it's going to be delicious. So what I have here today is my blender. I have here some unsweetened almond milk. It's accidentally vanilla, but if you can not get vanilla, that'll be even better. It'll give it a nice little sweet taste, so it's not going to be that weird. So yeah, unsweetened almond milk. I have some raw cashews that you can either boil or soak for about an hour or two to let them get really soft. But I do want them to be a little bit more firm inside of my blender. I also have here about a quarter of a red bell pepper. To not only give it the color, but just to give it a nice little zip as well. And I'm probably going to use about a cup or so of the raw cashews, by the way. I'm also going to be using some apple cider vinegar, about a tablespoon, maybe less than that. And I'm going to be having my spices. So check this out, y'all. We all know that nutritional yeast is great for anything cheesy. And this is definitely going to be like the main course of this recipe today, to not only give it the color, but the cheesiness flavor that we all desire. And paired along with the apple cider vinegar, it's going to give it that nice, not tart, what's that word called? Like the vinegary aftertaste that we usually taste with mac and cheese type sauces. And of course, I'm going to have my garlic powder, because you can never go wrong with that. I have onion powder. I have some red pepper. That's very optional. Once again, if you haven't seen our past lives, I love spicy food, so I have to have that in there. You could also use a chili powder or something smoky, because I love the taste of smoky foods. However, I do not have my chili powder in stock right now, because I probably used it all. But instead, I'm going to be using liquid smoke. That's also optional. But who can resist a smoky cheese sauce? You know what I'm saying? And then last but not least, I'm going to be having my Old Bay. We're here in Maryland, so I have to do what I got to do. And you can use a seasoning salt or anything that pleases you, like maybe Slap Your Mama seasoning. We all know that, huh? But I'm going to be using Old Bay today, just to stick with the Maryland theme here. And of course, a little bit of salt too. I could also just use the salt from the Old Bay, but I don't want to go too overboard with the salt, because I like to keep things a little bit more on the low sodium side. So let's get started. So in my blender, I have the measurements lined up here. So I'm just going to say it as I go along, but I'm probably going to pour about 8 to 12 ounces of my almond milk inside of my blender. And you can measure that with the measuring cup. But once again, I have measurements on my blender, so I don't have to do the most when it comes to that. So yes, I'm going to do 12 ounces because I want this to be as thick as possible. So set that aside. I'm going to put all my wet ingredients in first. I'm going to go along with the apple cider vinegar and put about a tablespoon of that in there. I think it calls originally for 2 tablespoons, but apple cider vinegar is not really my jam, so I'm probably going to not do the most when it comes to that as well. And this is a little bit here. Just pour that in there. Okay, so on to the next wet ingredient, which is going to be my liquid smoke. Once again, that is very optional. So I'm just going to, once again, just let my hand guide me and just do a few shakes of the liquid smoke in here because in my opinion, you can never go wrong with a smoky flavor. Okay, great. Setting that aside. And now I'm going to go on to the cashews. So once again, you can boil the cashews to make them softer. You can not marinate them, but soak them in water for about an hour or two. But I am just going to put a cup of cashews into my measuring cup here. I think it calls for 2, but I'm going to go with 1 for now, especially since we're going to have a pepper to thicken it up. So I'll just do like a cup and a quarter. How about we say that for now? If I need to, or if we need to, we can add more in later. Okay, great. So the next step is the bell pepper. So I really could put it just directly in here because my blender is, pretty nice. But I would also recommend to chop this up a little bit into like quarters or maybe into little pieces, like just dice it up a little bit. But I'm just gonna just throw it in there because it'd be like that sometimes. Okay, great. So now on to my favorite part, which is the spices. So I'm going to start off with the nutritional yeast, and it calls for about 2 tablespoons of that. So I'm just going to go right on in. And usually nutritional yeast has so much, like honestly, you can have a whole container of nutritional yeast and probably have it for like a whole year. Like it just really feels like it lasts forever. So I'm towards the end of it, but luckily I still got 2 tablespoons out of it, which is beautiful. Okay, great. So now we're done with that for the cheesy flavor. And I'm going to go all in with my spices. You can never go wrong with spices, especially if it's salt-free and especially if it's garlic. I don't know about y'all, but garlic is just universally just amazing, especially for savory dishes. I mean, if you want it in a sweet dish, do you? But I love adding a bunch of onion and garlic powder into my savory dishes without measurement. And then add in my optional red pepper. And I'm gonna add in actually a lot, to be honest. Great. And then I'm gonna add in about half a tablespoon of Old Bay because I can't get enough of that. So yeah, this is a 1 tablespoon measurement, but I'm gonna just put in a little bit, half, just eyeball it a little bit so you can tell it's definitely about half. And a little more. And I also have my sea salt here, nice and ready. But since Old Bay has a lot of salt in it as is, I'm just gonna put in a little bit of sea salt in my concoction. So just a tad bit. I would say it's probably about less than a teaspoon that I'm going to put in here today. Bye, baby. All right. And I believe we're ready, y'all. So I'm just going to get to blending. It's going to be a little bit loud, so bear with me now. And I'm going to blend it for as long as I can on high. Not only to just get the cashews nice and firm and all those types of things and everything nice and blended, but also the longer that you blend this, it warms up a little bit naturally and it thickens up over time. So the thicker, the better when it comes to this, because we don't want no watery sauce. We want a nice thick cheese sauce that can technically go on mac and cheese. But we're doing dips and this is going to be a perfect dip too. So once again, the thicker, the better. So I'm going to blend it on high and we're going to do it together. So let's see what happens. Give me 1 second. So you always want to eyeball your concoction because I noticed that it's a little bit watery now. So what I'm going to do in that case, I'm going to be adding a few more cashews. So probably about a quarter cup. So I have my measurement cup right here. Really, you could just put in a few more handfuls if you feel like it, because sometimes we already intuitively know. So I'm going to put in a little bit more cashews and then blend it up once more on high. And then I'm going to keep eyeballing my concoction to see whether or not it is getting thicker, because it will get thicker over time. It might seem thin at first, but it definitely does. So one more time. So this is the halfway mark. I'm going to blend it a little bit more, but I want y'all to see this. First of all, I don't know if y'all can tell, but it is literally smoking because like it's getting warm from all the like friction or whatever the science about blenders are. So it's definitely fuming from all the warmth. It is definitely getting thicker, and the smell, oh my God, the smell. So let me just show y'all really quick what it looks like at the halfway mark. It is literally thickening up in the blender as I talk. And that Old Bay is coming through. So I'm going to keep blending and then show y'all the final product. 1 second. Okay, and I'm going to stop here because I don't want to stress out my blender because it's obviously giving me signs that it's about to be done. But look, y'all, can y'all see it, or is that just me? Can anyone else see the fact that it's like fuming from heat?
I see it.
Good, because I'm about to say, is my computer not acting up? All right, cool. So this is it's a little bit thicker than this, but I'm going to still pour it in here. I'm just going to pour out a little bit for y'all. And I'm actually going to probably add a little bit more cashews in it later. But just to give you a little bit of a gist of what it looks like so far, I'm just going to put a little bit of a pour.
Yum.
Yes, y'all. Yes. And it definitely thickens up. Like it looks watery now, but like as I talk, as time goes on, it thickens up to like the texture of like a, like not cream cheese, but like a nice sizable dip. So yes, it's nice and warm, nice and yellow and cheesy. Cannot wait to eat this.
That's so cool, Jamila, because it's like, yeah, your sauces can also be dips. So like thinking about all types of sauces that people use, like they're definitely multi-purpose. So that looks amazing.
Thank you. I'm gonna try it myself. Actually, give me.
All right. So we see people are still joining. I see Lloyd just joined. I saw some folks from Philly in the house, Dietrich. So many people are joining. So we're so excited that people are still tuning in. Jamila, I think she's going to take some time to get her situation plated, show how she's going to serve her sauce/dip up. And we're going to get into the next recipe. So I'll go second. And I'm going to show you all how I make my caramelized carrot and onion dip. This is a little recipe experiment that we're going to do live here together. So let me get the format resituated. Okay, here I come. And yeah, let's get into it. So the recipe is relatively simple. It just has like 3 main ingredients, and then it has like several different spices and things that are going to help it get nice and smooth. So I'm using a food processor here today. I have a larger one, but we're going to rock with our small one. It's easier to clean, and I think it can handle what we're going to do. So this dip is inspired by hummus, but I didn't have any canned chickpeas, and I didn't feel like soaking and cooking and all that stuff because chickpeas can be really hard. So I wanted to use a legume that cooks a lot faster. So today I'm using yellow split peas. So this is what they look like in their dry state. They're similar to like green split peas, but yes, we're using yellow split peas today. And so I have already cooked these. This was a half cup that I boiled in water. So they're tender now, and this is what they look like when they're cooked. So I'm going to go ahead and add these into our food processor. And I don't have a spoon. Let me grab a spoon. Yes, so I'm just going to add my yellow split peas in. I've made lots of different like flavored hummuses in the past, so like you could really swap this out with anything. Like I said, if you have chickpeas, you could use chickpeas. You could use white beans like cannellini beans or navy beans instead. Also, whatever you have should swap in very nicely. So that is our split peas into the food processor. Next up, we are going to go in with our caramelized onions. Now you can caramelize your onions. I actually caramelize my onions and the carrots at the same time. So here's what they're looking like. You could saute them in a pan, but I decided to coat them with spices and oil and then bake them in the oven for about 40 minutes at 400 degrees till they got nice and tender and soft. And you see that browning there? Okay, so it's borderline. You might think it's burnt, but it's pretty sweet. So that's the caramelization we're talking about, right? So this is just a small onion that's this size that I diced up and put that on in. Right, so we've got our onions in, and then we have our carrots. So these carrots have so many delicious aromas. They're naturally sweet carrots, right? So when you cook them in the oven, low and slow, they start to release their natural sugars. Those sugars get concentrated, so that's going to add some really nice sweetness. And I season these with some spices that I'm going to be adding more of. But basically, I season these with cumin seeds, ground coriander. I also used a little bit of paprika and ground ginger. So that's what I used to spice these. And then I coated them with some avocado oil and roasted them alongside the onions. So I'm going to use probably about half of these carrots to start because I don't want to overfill my food processor. So those are main components that make up the body of this dip. Now to help things smooth out, we're going to add in a few tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. If you're oil free, you can skip the olive oil and just do water or vegetable broth if you want to add a little bit of extra flavor. But I just used 2 tablespoons here. Then I'm going to go in with the juice of 1/2 of a lemon. And what I like to do is sit a little strainer on top of my food processor to catch the seeds. All right, there we go. So we're just going to squeeze this lemon juice in here. That's going to add some tanginess because we have lots of great savory flavors in here, some natural sweetness, some earthiness. So the lemon is just going to brighten things up and balance things out. So we've got pretty much all that juice out of that lemon. If you like it extra tangy, you could use a whole lemon, but I'm going to start with 1/2 to start. Then we're going to go in with about a quarter cup of tahini. So tahini is just a sauce or a butter made up from ground sesame seeds. So this is something you'll find obviously in hummus. So we're going to go ahead and add that in as well. So we've got our tahini and our olive oil in, and now we're going to go in with a few more spices. First things first, no salt was added to any of the ingredients that I put in so far. I didn't cook the beans with any, the yellow split peas with any salt or anything. So I just wanted to be able to manage that salt level. So I'm going to go in with a hefty 1/2 teaspoon to start. And we're going to be moderate because we can always up the salt level later. I'm also going to go in with some more ginger. I'm going to do about 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. If you have ginger puree or fresh ginger, you could also use that instead. I'm also going to go in next with some turmeric. So the carrots already have a nice bright orange color, and that's from the beta carotene in the carrots. So there's beta carotene in turmeric also. So I'm going to go in with about a 1/2 teaspoon of that as well, just to brighten it up even more. And turmeric is great because it has great anti-inflammatory properties. And then to balance that out and even unlock more flavor and help you absorb the benefits of that turmeric, I'm going to go in with some ground chili. So Jasmine mentioned this last time we did a demo when I used turmeric, and she's like, black pepper is often paired with turmeric to help your body absorb all the nutrients inside, but red pepper also works. So I'm going to use just a kiss. I don't like my stuff too spicy, but I do want a little bit of heat in the background. So that was about 1/4 teaspoon. Once again, I'm eyeballing all of this, so I will get the proper amounts perfected and share that with y'all. And then finally, coriander. I love coriander because coriander, some people actually call cilantro coriander in other countries, but this is the ground up seed that grows cilantro, right? So it has a fresh flavor, but I think it also has some really nice sweet notes. So basically, this is just a collection of Indian spices that's going into these ingredients. So it's just like hummus with extra flavor. So I'm going to put on our food processor lid now. And I am going to start to fill this up. Okay, so that was maybe 30 or 60 seconds, and we've already got the texture of this dip starting to transform. It's really thick, so I'm going to show you what I can up close. So here is what our dip is looking like so far. It's nice and chunky. This isn't a hummus, so if you wanted to go chunkier, you could. I'm going to get this a little bit smoother though, but I'm not going to do that with the sound on. I want to shoot it over to Jasmine so she can start putting hers together, but I am going to do a quick taste test just to see if it needs any more salt or anything. It's perfect. I might add in a little bit more lemon juice, but other than that, the flavors come through amazingly. So I'm excited to finish blending this up, get it plated, and then come back to you when we have all of our dips done. So with that said, Jasmine, I'm going to bring it to you on the screen.
All right. All right, guys. Once again, I'm doing a buffalo chicken dip, which is great for, football season, for halftime. So if you just need like that comfort food, or if like you're hosting a party, you need like sort of like an appetizer, buffalo chicken dip is the way to go. The main ingredient that I'm using for my recipe is artichoke hearts. So when we think about like chicken replacements, we want to think about like those meaty vegetables as a replacement. We can use artichokes, jackfruit, cauliflower, mushrooms, potatoes. Just think about like those really, really meaty, stuff. Even beans that you can use in place of chicken. So that's what I'm going to be using in this recipe. I just grabbed these from Whole Foods, and this is what they look like. They're canned artichokes, and I got the one that's in water. We don't want to get the one that's marinated in oil because that changes up the flavor a little bit. I'm using the artichokes parts here. I'm going to also be using some cream cheese. I just grabbed this up, but you can also make your own, just like Jamila was using cashews. Cashews give like that nice creamy texture. So if you want to make your own cream cheese, you think about using raw cashews, mixed with some yogurt, lemon juice, mix that up in your seasoning of choice, and then you have cream cheese. So easy, so simple to make, and if you choose to go that route, using all whole foods. Next up, I'm going to be using some ranch. I just grabbed this from Whole Foods as well. You can use any brand that you want. You can even make your own. Again, going back to those cashews. Cashews are so versatile at making like those creamy textures. Cashews, dill, things like that. Then I'm going with some buffalo sauce. Of course, this is a buffalo chicken recipe. So I just grabbed this one. This is a no dairy buffalo sauce by Primal Kitchen. And what I love about these ingredients that I picked up, I always like to look at the ingredient label. What are people putting in my foods? And I try to stick to whole foods as much as possible. So y'all see, I'm a little out. It's like down here. So I had to go up and whip up my own buffalo sauce. So I just took some hot sauce, some butter, and this is what we're looking like. For the color, I added in a little bit of turmeric, but I used so some butter, some hot sauce, and then my seasonings of choice, and a little white distilled vinegar to make my buffalo sauce. And then lastly, I have some vegan cheese. You can opt out of this vegan cheese, and you can use some nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is a great way to go to give it that nice cheesy flavor, but I just wanted something quick and easy to give me that cheesy flavor. So I'm gonna go ahead and add everything to my bowl here. I'm gonna first go in with my cream cheese. Make sure you set this out in advance so it can thaw and soften up so it's nice and smooth when you go and mix it together. So I'm gonna just go ahead and put that into my bowl. I could probably have set it out a little bit longer, but you know, we're here now. So I'm gonna just add that in. Then I'm gonna add in my buffalo sauce. And because I really love the flavor of this, I'm just gonna go ahead and finish off this bottle. This stuff is really good and really clean. And I'm gonna go in and add about a 1/4 cup of my vegan ranch sauce. All right, and I'm just gonna go ahead and mix all those wet ingredients together. Now I should have really set my cream cheese out. It's a little thick right now, but we're just gonna go ahead and work it until we get it down. But everybody in the comment, have you all tried to make your own vegan cream cheese before? Let me know. There was a time a couple of years ago I was going raw vegan, and so I was going raw vegan with one of my friends, April, and we came up with all these different recipes. And cashews, raw cashews was one of the main things that we was using in our raw recipes just to give that nice creamy flavor. And that's how I found out about like vegan cream cheese, vegan ranch, or even like vegan sour cream. And cashews was sort of like the base that we use for all of those recipes. You just want to keep on mixing. And just try to break down that cream cheese as much as possible. Okay? So now I went ahead and I shredded my artichokes already. So you see it has like that nice like shredded chicken look to it. So I'm just gonna go ahead. I have about a cup of artichokes and I'm gonna dump that right into my buffalo chicken dip mixture. I'm gonna just go ahead and mix that around, make sure that it's all coated in there. And then lastly, I'm gonna go ahead and add about 1/4 cup of my cheddar shreds. Of course, this is always personal, so you adjust based on how cheesy you want it, how much heat you want to have in your recipe. And that's the beauty of making your own food, your own recipes. You can always adjust based on what it is that you're looking for, or what type of taste you want in your meals. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix it around. This is what we're looking like. Okay. So this is what we're looking like so far. Nice, easy, creamy. So I already run ahead and I oiled my cast iron pan. I'm just gonna go ahead and put my mixture in there. I'm gonna set my oven to 350. Let me just go ahead and smooth it, make it even, like so. And I'm gonna just take a couple more of my cheese shreds and throw that on top. Because I want sort of like that nice bubbly, y'all know like how macaroni and cheese is. It has like that nice bubble to it. So that's what I'm looking for with my buffalo chicken dip. All right, so that's all done. I'm gonna go ahead and add that to my oven at 350. All right, so while that's waiting, I went ahead early and I made my own crackers. So easy to make, guys. When I used to make these gluten-free crackers, these are sort of like a cheesy herb gluten-free cracker. I use almond flour, oat flour. For the color, I added a little turmeric. I added some of my cheese shreds, but again, you can use nutritional yeast. And then I have my seasonings of choice. So I use like my umami seasoning and some Italian herbs. I mixed that together, added a little water. I rolled it out on my counter surface and then chopped it up into like sort of like these little cracker shapes. And then we have these little crackers. If you're stickler for straight edges, you know, make sure you use your knife or whatever device you have. But we have these nice crackers. We'll go ahead and try one, see how it is. It's so good. And I didn't use any butter for these, but it tastes so buttery. and delicious. Sort of like a cheddar biscuit, but in cracker form. And I just topped it with some sesame seeds. So when my buffalo chicken dip is ready, I have some crackers to dip them in. And again, this is all homemade, and it's so easy to do. So that's that. So simple, so easy to make. Let us know what type of dips y'all are making what type of dips y'all love to make in the comments.
Jasmine, how long does your dip have to bake?
So about 20 to 30 minutes. But
Okay.
then you can go check on it, and the beauty about cooking, you can take it out before or let it soak or let it cook as long as you want it to cook. So
Love that. Well, let's first of all these dips look really good. I was getting excited tasting my dip. I'm so glad that we got to experiment live today because it turned out good. So I'm definitely going to write this down and share it so people get a chance to try it if they're looking for something like that. But one of the things I love about dips, it seems pretty simple, but they're so multi-purpose. So I can see using your dip, Jamila, along with your dip, Jasmine, with pasta to make it into a whole meal. This dip would be great on sandwiches or wraps. You could even do make a cheesesteak sauce or hoagies using the sauces that you all made. So they're very versatile. So when you get a good arsenal or rotation of dips that you know how to make from your own kitchen, it opens up all the flavors that you want to enjoy. So I think that's super cool.
So true. So true.
I'm going to comment. So a cracker recipe. So when I made the crackers, I put it in the oven at 180. So it's still on the softer side, but if I was to, increase the heat or let it sit in the oven a little bit longer, it will crisp up more. But I still like it at the soft state. It just reminds me like a biscuit. Give me this sort of biscuit feel. And it's not grainy or anything. It goes down smooth and delicious.
That's awesome, Jasmine. So it's kind of like you're almost dehydrating it in a way, because that's kind of yeah.
Right.
Nice. Okay. So you were really into raw veganism back in the day. I feel you. I feel you on that.
I love that. I've been experimenting with cracker recipes lately too. And I was trying to make something like Cheez-Its, and I've been working with cassava flour a lot.
Ooh.
It's a nice flour replacement for wheat. It has its own properties or whatever, but I've just been super inspired working with that, making tortillas. And then I was like, well, once I made the tortilla, I'm I can turn this into crackers too, probably. Yeah. And so now that has me trying to figure out how can I make graham crackers gluten-free? Because I feel once I figure that out, I can make all the desserts I want to make. You know what I mean? So
true.
Yeah.
What is the chickpea flour? I really love using chickpea flour in my recipes. I feel that would be a good cracker flour too.
Yeah, and all the flours you mentioned, Jasmine, are really nutrient dense, oat flour, chickpea flour. It's a snack, but it's also very nutrient rich compared to especially compared to what you're buying off the shelf. So it's a major upgrade in terms of
and it's so easy to make. The oat flour, I didn't have any oat flour in hand, but I just had regular oats that I grabbed from Whole Foods. Put it in a blender, blend it, and then you have yourself some oat flour.
Nice. And I see here in the comments, Bernadette Sessions says sweet potato flour is also good. That sounds so tasty. Yo.
I've used potato starch before, but I've never used sweet potato flour. So that sounds really interesting.
So good. You can never go wrong with sweet potato stuff. For real.
Right. Conversation. That goes to show you veganism boring. There's so many different options out there for you to experiment with and that actually work. You just gotta, little elbow grease in and be creative. So
Absolutely. Because it seems limiting. A lot of people feel that being plant-based or vegan is limiting, but that's just like you said, regardless of your socioeconomic status, there are sometimes a lot of variety because there's so many fruits and vegetables available on the market. There's something that we have to like. So as long as you try to explore to the best of your ability, you'll find that thing that you really, really like.
Right. And what I loved about all y'all recipes, y'all didn't go out and buy these expensive ingredients. You're using fresh fruits and vegetables. Jessica, I didn't see any processed foods that you use in your recipe. It's all fruits and vegetables. And it comes out, it's so delicious, and you wouldn't even imagine it's just fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, I think that's great too. In terms of embracing vegan living, eating more plant-based foods, it's once you're empowered, you kind of see how much versatility there is. Because for me, nacho cheese sauce used to be Velveeta and Rotel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's how you make it. Now there are at least like 3 or 4 or 5 different ways I can make nacho cheese sauce using white beans or cauliflower or carrots or potatoes or vegan cheese sauce or sunflower seeds or cashews. Like, you know, there are like endless ways to get to a similar destination. So it allows you to be way more inventive and like resourceful and creative. You know what I mean? Once you're like, oh, what I like about nacho cheese sauce is that it's tangy, it's nutty, it's creamy, it's, you know what I mean? And then once you really pinpoint what it is you like about the food you're eating anyway, like you're like, oh, well, I can arrive at that destination multiple ways, you know, like whether I want it to be more decadent and comforting or whether I'm like a raw vegan and I still want nacho cheese sauce, like there's a way to get there.
Right.
You know, like nothing is off limits, honestly. So I think that's like one of the coolest things about like at least cooking vegan food, like in the kitchen, is just like, oh, there's more than one way to create a masterpiece, you know?
So true. And even using plants as like an alternative. Like there are so many ways to like the other day I saw Brielle Ringer. She is with Encompass Movement. She made like she went to a restaurant where they had like this eggplant steak. And she you thought it was whole steak. It was like, girl, you're not vegan. You know what I mean? I was so concerned for a second. But the amazing ways that people can be creative with actual plant-based items to, you know, make it a great alternative is such an amazing thing, because people really do underestimate the power that plants can have, not even just to imitate other things, but the flavor as well. So it really feels like you're not really missing anything as well. You're just, you know, gaining something more and something more nutrient dense. So it's an amazing feeling.
And also, like, you eat these foods that you used to associate with like comfort food that you would be like tired after eating, drained after eating, have digestive issues after eating, and now you eat like the plant-based version. It's like, oh, I feel energized.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't even take a nap. Like, oh, okay, everything is moving smoothly and right on time. You know what I mean? It's just like a lot of those issues are eliminated as well. And it's just like, oh, I didn't realize. I thought like to have something I enjoy, like there were consequences, but like, or negative consequences. But it's like, no, I can have something I enjoy and experience positive benefits. So like that's like a whole mindset shift to experience too. Like, wait, this is that in itself is like revolutionary. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like for folks that have kids and whatnot, when you think about getting them to eat more vegetables or to get some versatility in that food, like dips is perfect. So you can just blend everything up and just hide, you know, these different fruits and vegetables that they may not typically eat inside the sauce and make it into something that's, you know, yummy. So
exactly. Yeah. Like y'all have the artichoke hearts, you know what I mean? You have the onions, you know, the turmeric and all that type of stuff. I got the red bell pepper, you know what I mean? It can easily be hidden things because not everything has a really strong flavor. You know what I mean? Because a lot of us are scared to try some things. I know when I was a child, I did not eat fruits and vegetables. I was too nervous of the texture, the taste. Yeah, it's actually kind of sad now I think about it. But now that I'm older and now that I've been able to expand my palate and taste different things, I realize that these things don't even have a real strong taste. All I have to do is just eat them for real.
Right. I'm afraid to admit, like early on my vegan journey, like I hated fruits and vegetables. Like I don't know how I survived as a vegan, but like I just love like the carby things. Like if I knew what I knew now, like, you know, it's hard to get creative in the kitchen. Like that would have just transformed beginning my vegan journey so much.
Right.
I think that's a good segue to a quote that I wanted to share from a vegan woman I admire, which is Kimberly Elise. So let me see if I can pull it up. So if you all don't know Kimberly Elise, I feel like people are familiar with Kimberly Elise. She's an actress. She's a philanthropist. She's been vegan for a very long time. And she also has a natural hair care line. So something she said was, you don't really realize what food tastes like until you stop eating meat. It's like something happens in your palate. It just gets cleansed. And the simplest thing, a tomato, tastes like the most vibrant, amazing thing on the planet. And her energy is fantastic because of it. And I can definitely attest to like the shift in my palate. Like, oh, this is what corn tastes like. Like corn is really sweet. Or like, oh, this is what carrots taste like. Like, oh, carrots are, you know, like things I assumed were like with vegetables, I assumed all vegetables were savory. You know what I mean? Just because it's like, oh, that's a vegetable, that's not a fruit. And I had a sweet tooth. So for me, like cleaning up what I was eating and like eliminating so many like animal-based processed foods, which they really subdue the flavors and things because there's so much fat in animal products as well. And like when you look at cooking, like fat is something that like neutralizes or like subdues flavor. So like when you like strip all that stuff away and you're like, oh, so this is just corn? Like nobody added sugar to this? Like, okay, so I don't need to add sugar to my corn. Or like, oh, I baked the sweet potato in the oven for like an hour till it's like oozing caramel out of it. And it's like, oh, sweet potatoes can get this sweet without adding brown sugar? Like, I didn't know that was a thing. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
and yeah, without all the extra butter and stuff on it. So like, yes, your taste buds will transform if you really like just commit to like shifting how you eat for sure.
And
Absolutely.
I've also learned, like, whenever I do like a fast for like 3 days or even like 1 day, when you come back, like you were saying, like the fruits and the vegetables, you realize how much flavor and like how good they are on their own. Because like, you know, go and detoxify your taste buds and like clean the slate off a little bit, and then you go and explore all those different fruits and vegetables, and that just starts creation.
Yes, I feel you on that. Yeah, I feel you on that because you really don't need all that. We don't need all this like this butter and all that type of stuff, and we don't have time for the itis. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to eat delicious food and still feel great afterwards. So
that's how you know. That's how you know that you made a nice, delicious plant-based meal. When you go and eat it and it's good, and you're energized afterwards, and you're not sluggish or anything, you hit the jackpot.
Yes.
I agree. And it also, I mean, in terms of cravings too, like it's just so interesting, not just taste, but like how your cravings shift also when you start eating vegan, because it's like your body craves to be energized as opposed to like craving things out of almost like a place of addiction to certain things. It's just like, I need this, I have to have that, my mood isn't messed up. Like, no, like I'm craving these things and I know they're delicious, but I also know that they're hydrating. I also know that I'm going to feel like satisfied. I also know, you know what I mean? Like these aren't maybe not explicit thoughts that you're having, but like what your body requests of you just shifts.
Right.
How you do things,
Definitely. And that sort of shifts into the quote that I had for the evening. So I got my quote from Alice Walker, and I wrote it down so I won't mess it up. Chop it up. But it's the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. So it's going back to like mindset is everything, and like especially like our folks that's trying to transition. Like that's why we always say like define your why. Why is it that you're doing this? Like when you have your mind correct and you know why you're doing something, there's so much power in the mind. You're going to get it done. And you can be the most beautiful person in the world, the smartest person, but if your mind is telling you, oh no, like you're not smart or you're ugly, you're going to believe that. And that's the same thing like on a vegan journey. Like you're going to tell yourself, like, I could never do this. Like you have to be mindful of the words that you're putting out because words have power to them. And I've seen it, like I've worked in the healthcare field for a little bit, and I've seen so many people give up their power on like their healing journeys and putting that power into the hands of someone else. Not to say that other people can't help you, but like when you're giving all your power to like doctors or nurses or other individuals, and you're not going off your instinct, like you lose all your ability to heal. I think we are our number one doctors. We have our own ability to heal based on our intuition. Like, we know what's going on with us. Nobody can tell us what's going on with us. So when we go back to power and that mindset, like you have to have your mind right before you make any decision.
Facts. Straight facts. And honestly, that kind of goes into my quote, to be honest, because like I am so with you right there, Jasmine. Like our minds are so powerful. Like it really does matter how we feel about ourselves at the end of the day.
Right.
We have to use that intuition. We have to use that like self-knowledge and, having that type of like knowledge of self and like feeling worthy of like wanting better for ourselves. And our mind is the one that tells us that we can want better for ourselves. So I love that. So my quote comes from Maya Angelou, and we can never go wrong with her. But what reminds me of it is she says, while one may encounter many defeats, one must not be defeated. And I love that so much. If I could snap, I would give so many snaps right now because yes, please snap on my behalf, because like that is just so like it's so true. Like especially as Black women, we go through so much. I mean, please in the comment section, let us know your experience as well. But you feel defeated sometimes because you realize that there's a lot of odds stacked against you. But we must not be defeated. It's hard out here for us sometimes, but we must go on. And the best part about us Black women is that we do. Like we persevere. We you know, we surprise other people, and but more importantly, we surprise ourselves, and we do not let any odds get in our way of becoming successful in our own personal way. So it's just a very fantastic thing that, like, that's not only what we're known for, but we're actually about that life. So yeah, we must not be defeated. We always have to go on.
Right. Just like a phoenix, we always rise, regardless of what's going on in our lives.
Yeah, and actually, and Maya Angelou, I believe, has a poem called "Still I Rise."
Yes.
So, yes, she's just on it. She's always on it.
I think that's a beautiful thing to think about too, like ending Women's History Month, and we live our lives every day as women navigating the world, right? And just thinking about, like, you know, everybody faces challenges, everyone has opportunities. And so even though we may have certain places in society where we are having to face more obstacles than other people who have more privileges than us, right? It's still the opportunity to maximize what resources are available to us. And I feel like so much about like navigating the world today, it makes it easier for us to disconnect from our instincts and follow a path that's pre-carved out for us. And so it takes a certain amount of bravery and boldness and like leadership to question the way things are and take steps and create a new path for ourselves. And there are challenges, you know, there is struggle, but we have the opportunity to create new ways of living and being that eliminate some of that strife from our lives, right? So, like, you know, I feel like so much of our world is based off of convenience and like falling in line with social norms so that you aren't criticized. But there are so many ways of doing things that are like embedded with us, like on an ancient level, based off of how our ancestors did things because they lived in a different world than us. And so we have access, maybe not to that knowledge right away, but like when we start walking down these paths of like, you know, seeking new options, new alternatives, building community, choosing to connect to nature, you know, choosing to connect to our spirit, our intuition. Like when the answers arise, it just feels so familiar. And so I would say always, like, you can look at the circumstances of your life. There are things that we must do to survive, to keep things going. But look for opportunities to make shifts. And the more opportunities you look for to make shifts, the more space you create for the opportunities you want, as opposed to the constraints that have held you just because that was the trajectory that you were already on anyway.
Right, right. And I love a saying that kind of reminds me of like people say our ancestors did so we can, because they created so many paths for us so that we can possibly intuitively get those, like, you know, messages that they probably have sent to us or whatever, like, you know, so we can pick up and just go with intuition and do what we got to do. So yeah, I totally feel you on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like ancestors, but even like our elders, like people that we know, like going back to like their early stages in life, like many of them were from down south. You know, they got their hands dirty in the fields. You know, growing their own foods and whatnot, and just that just goes to show you like the healing powers of like plant-based foods. Like even not just like with the body, but like community. Like everyone's out there, you know, growing food together, harvesting food together, and that was just the way of our elders. You know, being one with nature. So,
yeah.
So true.
I think that's a great reminder too, that like if we are still blessed to have elders in our lives, like we need to talk to them, we need to ask them questions, we need to learn from them. Like I feel like, yeah, that's something we take for granted when people are here. And if you still have the opportunity, like I only have one living grandparent, so you know, like being mindful of being like, you know what, let me take the opportunity to like benefit from their wisdom, you know. And so yeah, I would encourage us, like the elders in your life, the women who are elders in our life, like they have valuable lessons for us if we're willing to ask and sit and listen.
I love that. Like,
Absolutely.
if you have any like living grandparents or like any elders in your life, they have so much wisdom. Like, go tap into them. Like, okay, granny or like grandma, like, what recipes did you use to create these delicious meals that you know cook up on Sunday? Like, write that down so you can pass it on from generation to generation. Like, when we write that down, that's how we don't lose, you know, our family traditions. Like, we can take that with us, and our elders are the ones that have that information.
Oh my God. Yes.
And go have a conversation.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't have any real elders with me. Like, I don't have any grandparents. I do have elderly like aunts and uncles. But one thing that I always will remember about my grandma who lived down south before she transitioned, we would always go down to the field on the street, barefoot in the dirt road to pick some peas. She had in her pail. We go home and shell them for dinner that night. That type of stuff will always like run through my veins. And that's why plant-based eating and being vegan is so important to me, because I really feel like it is me venerating not only my grandmother and has she transitioned, but just like carrying on the tradition of like Black culture, like that, having connection to the earth, because we really do. We really sense it. We're getting more and more of that to this day, but you know, it just really makes me feel more connected to my culture and the earth.
I think that's such a great point too, Jamila, because like I was thinking about my nieces and nephews, and I don't know if they have, but like I specifically remember visiting my granddad, and we would stop in Pennsylvania at his dad's house. So we would go see my great granddad, and he would drive us up to the road to the Amish farm to get corn. And we would bring all this corn back to my granddad's house in Maryland, and then we would sit in the backyard and shuck the corn. I was little kids sitting on the back porch shucking corn. I don't know if little kids sit outside and shuck corn anymore. And so it's like, also, if we have kids in our life, like it's also our responsibility too to be like, you know what, we're about to go shuck corn in the backyard. Or you think about some of those traditions that we have with our grandparents that they may not be experiencing, and like try to give them, try to give them access to those experiences as well.
Most definitely.
You make a good point, because when I think about like one of the prominent memories from my childhood is going down to Virginia, and like some like I think my great aunt, she had like a farm, and like when we pick grapes like right off the vine. That's just like a profound memory. It's just like my connection to the earth. And like you said, I don't think like the kids from today, they don't have that opportunity. But I think like you said once again, like it's our responsibility to connect them with that portion of our.
Most def.
This conversation made me think of something too. This is kind of random, but I just bought this book on Amazon. And it's called In Bibi's Kitchen. And basically it's a collection of recipes from grandmothers from the 8 East African countries. And so this is not necessarily a vegan cookbook, but there are so many plant-based recipes. And so like me going through and seeing like, what can I make outright without making any adjustments? It was just like, that reminds me of this. That reminds me of that. So like thinking about ancestors and that even more, it's like grandmother's kitchens from East Africa, but then looking at the dishes they're eating and like, that reminds me of Hop and John. That's how we make collard greens. Oh, that's what they call it there. So like, this is just another opportunity to make like those cultural, historical like connections. So I'm excited to actually cook from this book, but I was like, oh, this conversation goes perfectly. So this is called, like I said, In Bibi's Kitchen. It's not a vegan cookbook, but there are plant-based recipes, and I'm going to figure out how to veganize some of the animal recipes in here too.
Right.
That's awesome. Go ahead now. That is great.
Yeah. Even though like that vegan terminology, like we know that that's the way it's supposed to be. Like they're using like plant-based recipes, like that's what our ancestors ate is these plant-based recipes.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Because once again, we use what was in the earth. You know what I mean? I mean, we did what we had to do, of course, with other beings, but like when it came down to it, mostly that's what we were eating. So I'm sorry, y'all. I can't stop eating this sauce.
I was about to say, I was like, I'm trying to be good, but I want to show my dip, and then so I can start eating.
Yeah, this might as well just be a smoothie for me, because I can drink this whole thing right now.
Oh, and Bernadette Session says most of the recipes in Bibi's Kitchen can be easily veganized. Yeah, I was noticing that. So yeah, if anyone's looking for a new cookbook, some different types of recipes, wants to delve into East African recipes, look out for that book. And then we've been getting tons of comments during this conversation, so I want to highlight some more. Awesome. So someone says, so true. I interviewed my beloved grandmother many years ago and recorded it. I was really missing her a few days ago, so I listened to that recording and had so many smiles. Writing a play about her. That's a beautiful tribute, and that's also an amazing idea.
Yes.
That's an amazing idea. Both of my grandmothers passed away when I was young. So like my mom's mom passed away when I was a senior in high school, and she lived in Oregon and I lived in Ohio. So I hadn't seen her in years. And then my dad's mom passed away when I was 8 years old, and I saw her a lot. So I didn't have that like awareness or that like consciousness to, I don't know. I didn't think like that. I was a little kid, and but yeah, I do have one living grandparent still, and so it's just like not thinking about them leaving, but just connecting with them about their stories here and now, like appreciating people while they're here. So it's a great tribute, but it's also just a beautiful way to spend time with people while they're here with you. So thanks for sharing that story with us. I want to come up close. Well, we'll have to, let's see. All right, I'm going to show you my dip. So here we have my caramelized carrot and onion dip made with yellow split peas and all those good spices. And then I have celery, cucumber, tomato, red bell pepper, and sugar snap peas in there. So it has a beautiful flavor, earthy, aromatic, sweet a little bit, creamy. It's so good. And then I also have some baked potato chips. These are like the ones I made for those nachos I made a couple lives ago. So I was like, healthy. This is still healthy because these were actually made with no oil. But yeah, so just a variety of things to dip it in. But I think it'll be really, really good also with like in a sandwich or a wrap. But I also think it would be good like with just like some sauteed vegetables and rice and just add that topping on top just to like bring everything together.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's my dip.
And for my dip, as I said earlier, y'all, it definitely thickened up. It's still a little bit more on the thinner side, but it gets thicker over time. And y'all can kind of see it by now, but yes, nice and smooth, nice and cashew-y. You can if you work with cashews, you already know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this is so good. It's like smoky, sweet, a little bit spicy. I really can't get enough of this, y'all. So you can have this with some baby carrots. I don't have a fancy spread, but I have some carrots here. And I'm actually going to be making some jalapeno poppers with this sauce right after this live. So I cannot wait to begin on that. What about you, Jasmine?
Yep, so I tasted mine. It's not quite done yet, but I'm going to just show you how it's looking so far. I'm going to leave it in so it can like brown up a little bit, but it's coming together nicely. I see like the nice crispiness coming on the top. When I tasted it, it has that nice buffalo flavor going. And then the artichokes maintain the integrity and it has like a nice chewy, meaty texture to it. So,
lovely.
Well.
Sounds awesome.
Yes, well, all of these dips sound amazing. And like I said, we'll be sharing write-ups. So I'll email y'all to get your write-ups of your recipes, and we can get those sent out, a PDF sent out to everybody who is on our email list. But thanks so much for hanging out with us this evening. We hope you enjoyed this virtual happy hour. We didn't do any drinks, but that is just a given that you enjoy a little sip of something if you want to. But yeah, always fun talking about these things. I love the discussion. The discussion is always so rich, and like seeing the discussion in the comment section and people connecting with each other, we love it.
Yes, so great. So great.
Yeah, so with that said, thanks for tuning in. You'll be able to watch this replay if you joined late and you want to see how we made anything. And we will see you all again next month for another virtual vegan happy hour with Afro-Vegan Society.
Awesome.
Bye,
Thank you. Bye. Have a nice night.